We shot a beach scene at the wrong time of year, and it almost cost us the end of the film. We made it to season 4 of Live Life for the Stories. This one focused on projects and experiences from the spring semester of my freshman year of college. I was now in my final year before my life changed forever, and I still had no idea what was coming. We talked a lot about Carpe Diem in the last 2 seasons, and we'll start this season with it too. Making that film was a huge part of my life that extended well beyond the initial trip, and I learned so much from it. Like I talked about in the season 3 finale, I'd been working on Camp Hero Time, but I had to take a day off from that film to shoot a couple scenes I'd already scheduled for Carpe Diem to help fill in the pieces we were missing and to replace scenes that I just knew we could do better. So on the night of January 1st, 2013, Aaron Shee came over to pre-produce for the next day, and we knew it was going to be a tough day. We did our best to fit everything into the schedule and hoped we had it planned out well enough. He was over past midnight that night because we knew this was one of our only days to be able to shoot these scenes, and we had to get it right. To give us a little more time the next day, around 1 a.m., we shot scene 55. Once we had the scene set up, it only took 5 minutes to shoot it, and I used my new tripod that I'd gotten for Christmas to do a slow tilt up and rack focus that just hadn't been possible before getting that equipment. I was happy to have expanded the range of types of shots that we could get smoothly, and it was perfect for that scene. It was supposed to be a teddy bear that Aaron's character Daniel Tao was talking to after having sex with Cora, but we didn't have one, so we used a Beanie Baby squirrel instead. Gotta work with what you've got. Then Aaron went home so we could get some rest before the big shoot. So instead of going to Camp Hero Time's 5th production day, the next morning, Aaron and Colin met up with Selena and I at my parents' place around 9 a.m. so we could start to shoot a couple scenes. We started with scene 14, one that was supposed to be setting up camp in Scotland. We walked out into Fort Ord and got a time lapse of us setting up the tents and just hoped no one would recognize where we were. This really felt like a return to our roots since our very first ATAEC Studios film, Ninja vs. Samurai, had also been shot there, the one I mentioned back in season 1, episode 1. But once the tent was set up, we got the whipped cream insert because we didn't have a good close-up of that moment, but we didn't actually have any whipped cream either, so we used strawberry yogurt instead, but I think it worked out. At that point, we did what's called a company move, where the entire production, actors, crew, and equipment moves to a new location, and that location was Colin's house. For scene 3, we got a broken expectations shot of Jack Card, where it looked like he was jacking off, see what I did there, but he was actually playing video games. I thought it was a good way to subtly establish his character as a sexual guy who just didn't do very well with women. I was the camera operator for that shot, but Selena became the camera operator next because Colin, Aaron, and I were all in the next scene together, which was us packing the car. That just showed how we got to the airport and also established what each character was most excited for about the trip. We shot that in about 30 minutes, finished just after noon, and then we quickly packed up the film equipment. We knew we had to keep it moving if we were going to get everything we needed that day. Now, in real life, we'd flown out of the San Francisco airport, SFO, but we knew we weren't going to be able to shoot there without a permit and some serious drawbacks, so we tried something else instead. We went to the Monterey airport and just walked in. We hadn't spoken to anyone or asked if it was okay to shoot there, we just did it. That was guerrilla filmmaking for sure, but it was a small enough airport that nobody really cared what we were doing there. That was where I met up with Angel Zabel, a model that Selena had reached out to for a role in the film. I believe they had gone to school together and that was how they knew each other, but she agreed, so we started rolling at 2 p.m. and had scene 90 shot in 48 minutes. Getting a scene in an airport definitely brought the film's production value up a notch or two. We were able to do close-ups, wide shots, shoot literally anywhere we needed to, and no one cared. We had tripod on the ground, microphones, everything. People just kind of watched or went back to what they were doing. But in hindsight, we realized we'd made one mistake because we used a new lens filter and the shots had come out a little blurry on a larger screen, even though they'd seemed sharp when we looked at them through the camera. But luckily, we'd only used the filter for a couple different shots, so it wasn't the end of the world. I don't want to say we fixed it in post, but we did sharpen those shots with a program in post-production. But with the airport scene shot, we released Angel Zabel for the moment, and we're thankful that she'd come out to film with us. I think a lot of our day player actors had good experiences on set because we rarely kept them for more than an hour or two. I had yet to realize just how much of a rarity that is on a film set. But Angel had one more scene to shoot with us later that day, and that would not be a good experience. But we quickly shot the sleeping montage at the airport, shot the Aaron on the ground insert, then packed up and left, pleasantly surprised that no one had come up and questioned us about anything. But looking back at it, that time-lapse shot didn't really look that much like an airport, so we eventually decided to go back and shoot that bit again with a better background. But that day, it was now just after 3 p.m., and sunset was around 5. So we knew we were running out of daylight, but we had one very important scene left. And it had to be the last scene we shot that day because it involved 2 of our actors getting in the ocean at golden hour. Which, if you didn't know, golden hour is the hour before sunset. We drove out to Del Monte Beach, and that was how Aaron Shee, in nothing but board shorts, and Angel Zabel, in just a bikini, ended up in the Monterey Bay on January 3rd, pretending it was summer in Rio de Janeiro. However, it was 55 degrees Fahrenheit when they first got in the water, and that temperature was dropping quickly as sunset approached, so it was really hard to prevent them from shivering on camera. They were dedicated though, at least enough to get in the water twice and get what we needed. After every take, they wrapped themselves in towels and jackets to prevent the goosebumps from showing up on camera too much. And it took 45 minutes to shoot that scene. We wrapped up at 4:45 p.m. just before the sunset, and the temperature dropped drastically. I'm pretty sure one of them would have gotten hypothermia if we'd taken any longer, or forced him to get back in the water again. But we'd gotten our beach scene and got our golden hour shot of them happily running across the beach, which was the last shot in the film before the credits rolled. So it was important. I really focused on getting the film finished, but I also felt like I was walking on thin ice just a little bit because I was shooting what was essentially a bit of a male gaze shot at an attractive woman in a bikini while my girlfriend was standing next to me. I didn't want to make the actress uncomfortable or make my girlfriend jealous, but luckily we shot that scene without any sort of conflict, made it through the day with good footage to add to the film. Something it did make me aware of, though, was that having Selena reach out to an actress and be there on set was significantly less creepy than me reaching out to an actress, especially if it had been a cold call for a scene like that. So I'm glad it worked out the way it did. At that point, we said goodbye to Angel, thanking her for her dedication despite the cold, and we packed up and got warm again. Aaron, Colin, Selena, and I headed home in Colin's van, and we stopped at Jack in the Box to refuel before we shot anything else. We just needed food quick. Aaron had some huge burger because there was a deal, and he said, "Oh yeah," when he saw how big the burger was and took a massive bite, stuffing as much of it into his mouth as he could, and that actually became inspiration for another quick scene we shot later on. But we got back in the car after that, and I took shotgun so we could get a pickup shot. It was at 5:35 we shot 2 lines from the car scene that we had originally shot with Ammon over the summer, because while we were editing, we realized we just needed one more take. Luckily, we had just enough light that we could shoot it, and also luckily it was one of my lines, not one of Ammon's, because he was living on the East Coast by then. After that, Colin dropped Selena and I off at my parents' place, and I hugged Colin and Aaron goodbye. Colin then dropped Aaron off before going home himself, and that was the day. I'll always be grateful that Colin was willing to drive us around, since he was basically the only one of us that had both a license and a car back then. That wasn't the last Carpe Diem scene we shot over winter break, though. We didn't shoot on January 3rd, but we did do a photo shoot because Selena wanted to practice her camera work, so she had me model for her in a couple different areas. One photo became kind of infamous in my friend group as people made jokes about how I seemed to have learned to pole dance. To be clear, I never actually learned how to pole dance, but I leaned into the joke. January 4th was my last day on the Camp Hero Time set, like I mentioned in the season 3 finale, but January 5th was another Carpe Diem production day. To start off, around 1 p.m., Selena and I went to Carmel Beach and met up with Rebekah and Joel Newman, who were dating at the time and are now married. When Julia went off on her own in Barcelona, I wanted the character to look at the beach and see a happy couple. But since we didn't have any actors on the trip to be able to do that, we got this insert with Rebekah and Joel, and I just color graded it to look as similar as I possibly could. I liked working with actors I'd made films with in the past, so I was happy to give Rebekah a part in Carpe Diem since she'd been in Plan of Action, filmed from Season 1, Episode 4. Selena did another photo shoot with Rebekah while she was there, and I got to experiment with more unusual color grading, desaturating some colors and oversaturating others to make different areas pop out and appear more vibrant, giving different moods and looks to different images. I think some of the shots turned out very well, and I was happy to be a part of it. Looking back on it, I should have made a video example of photo retouching with some of those images because I think they're a much better example of what can be done with the right color grade to achieve a different feeling when looking at the photo. That wasn't the end of the day though. After saying goodbye to Rebekah and Joel, we met Aaron Shee at a dance studio in Carmel. I can't exactly remember where it was, but I think it was either the Dance Center or Dance Kids Inc. because I think it was where Selena used to dance when she was in high school. That was where we reshot the dance sequence we'd originally shot at Pineapple Dance Studios in London. It only took 20 minutes to shoot the dance itself, and it looked much better than the one we'd shot right after we got back from 5 weeks of backpacking through Europe. And then we shot the dialogue section of that scene, only about 10 minutes. And finally, once we'd gotten the most important parts, we went outside of the studio and shot the intro, where Ross and Julia meet up and go inside. We made sure to shoot that part last because it was in public, outdoors, and we worried someone might tell us not to shoot there, but luckily we didn't have any issues. We took a break and ate dinner somewhere, but that wasn't the end of the day either. We went back to my parents' place to shoot Scene 31, Part 2. We'd gotten the Finding the Letter scene that I talked about in Season 3, Episode 19, but the original Part 2 of that scene didn't look all that great. It was too tight of a bathroom to be able to really get the shots we wanted. So we expanded it a little to give it more emotional impact and shot it in a larger bathroom that allowed us to do better angles and a shot with an emotional reveal. We started at 7:45 and got the intro part, and then we got an 11-minute and 39-second shot of me shaving that originally we used as like a sped up time lapse, but it ended up not being used in the final edit because it just took up too much time. But once I was clean shaven, we shot the dialogue of Part 2, now giving a good reason as to why my look changed halfway through the movie. We got our final shot of the night at 9:19 p.m., the emotional reveal shot I mentioned earlier, and that was a wrap on what was around an 8-hour production day, but with lots of breaks for location changes and meals. We did have to sacrifice a few days of winter break that we would have had off otherwise. We did have to risk hypothermia, and we did have to risk getting kicked out of an airport by TSA. But we'd successfully replaced a few weaker scenes and added in a number of important new scenes to Carpe Diem, including the ending, so we were much, much closer to a completed film. If there's a lesson to be learned from all this, it's that some things are worth sacrificing in order to accomplish your goals and dreams. In contrast to the Season 3 finale, we didn't have to sacrifice holiday time with family. We just had to give up a couple days of vacation and be uncomfortable in the cold for about an hour. On January 6th, we took the Amtrak train back to Los Angeles, my second time making that trip, and then on January 7th, Selena and I said our goodbyes and she flew back to London. Little did I know I wouldn't see her again until after a tragedy had befallen her family. And I'll get to that eventually, but you'll have to tune in next week to hear all about Clint Eastwood.
Man, this trip is going to be awesome.
I know. Can't believe Julia's going to come with us.
Can't believe we haven't eaten in 3 hours.
Hey, as long as we have a place to stay in London, I'm good.
All right.
Either way. 5 countries, Europe, new bitches, new me.
Later.
Best boys.
Just bless.
All right, cut.